fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god!
Oh.
Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
This is very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go!
Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Are you new to sim racing, or maybe a veteran struggling to reach the next level? Have you ever wondered how the aliens reach impressive lap times that seem impossible to achieve? If so, you're not alone. Most drivers reach a certain level and get stuck. But getting faster on track is easier than you think. VRS coaches are some of the best sim racers in the world and offer one-on-one driver skills training at affordable rates to help new drivers learn the basics and help experienced drivers break through to the next level. Are you ready to get faster and get off the iRacing roller coaster? If so, VRS one-on-one personal training is for you. If you've invested in your equipment, it might be time to invest in yourself. Just go to virtualracingschool.com and sign up for a 30, 60 or 90-minute session with one of our world-class coaches, and you'll learn exactly what to do for faster lap times and more podiums.
Welcome one and welcome all to SimSpeed TV. For the final time this iRacing season, we go racing in the Virtual Racing School GT Sprint Series. We're at week 12, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, the host of the Canadian Grand Prix since the late 1970s. What a fantastic track, what a fantastic field of cars we've got tonight. Can't wait to bring it to you here live on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter as well. My name is Reese Gardner. And joining me in the commentary box, as per usual, Brad Wingard. Well, Brad, we've come to the end of a long and arduous season here, and what a place to end things here at Montreal, this public park circuit that has many braking zones, plenty of chicanes, and a couple of long straights for some drafting. I'm looking forward to seeing how the GT3 machinery tackles this place.
Yeah, good evening, Reese. It's an absolute staple of most racing simulators these days. Most international racing series love to come here. There's so many iconic corners. It's such a tight, twisty track, even with that long main and back straight that connect at the Wall of Champions. And the racing here is always intense, but it's not always clean. So those first couple of laps are going to be very, very make or break for a lot of drivers.
Yeah, they absolutely are. The Circuit Gilles Villeneuve here. We check out everything around this brilliant circuit. 1978 this place has been around since, and it's gone through a few changes over the years. The layout's actually a bit simpler than it was when the track was first opened. So a little bit less work for the drivers to do nowadays, but you still have to be very careful of the curbs here. You obviously have to be very careful of the braking zone into the hairpin as well. So, really looking forward to all of the foibles that the drivers are going to encounter here, particularly at turns 12 and 13 at the final chicane. Certainly, you've got to be careful of the slowdown there. If you run a bit too far over the curbs, you're going to be hit with something like a 3-second slowdown, which certainly you don't want. The drivers are in qualifying at the moment, and checking out one of the Porsches making their way around here in the qualifying session. It's very important to get a proper lap time down here, Brad, because my goodness, you can certainly get off tracks and slowdowns around here, but when you nail a lap, it's absolutely magic.
Yeah, it really is. There's technically only one corner, the hairpin near the end of the lap, is the only corner that isn't a chicane of some sort. And that sounds really awful because a lot of chicanes that we usually race against are really tight and single file, but these ones are nice and wide, got really good flow, and even though there are a few big curbs in some of the chicanes like this one that Alberto Gravilli is going through now, they flow really well and they open up a lot of overtaking maneuvers because of the corners that precede and follow them. So there's really no wrong way to get around this circuit if you're on the black stuff, but there is a fine line between getting around it fast and just getting around the tracks. It's going to be a very interesting race tonight.
Yeah, absolutely is. Victor Gremain we're taking a look at here in the Lamborghini down the back stretch here towards the chicane. 1 minute 34.6 his previous lap time, and you can that seems to be pretty much on the pace here. Let's see what Gremain can do as he crosses the line on board, and 1 minute 35.4. No, actually, 134.7. So that's going to be, I believe, an improvement there for him. I'm very happy with that. Robert Visky also in the Lamborghini, which seems to be a popular car choice here, Brad. The popular car choices tend to change track to track. Last week at Interlagos, it was the BMW that was the most popular choice because at the high altitudes of that track, it had more turbo boost pressure than the other cars did. But for some reason, we've got quite a few drivers here in the Lamborghini once again today.
Yeah, there's quite a few Lamborghinis. There's a couple Porsches and an Audi, and then a couple of BMWs as well. But yeah, the pick of the crop seems to be the Lamborghini, and I'm going to put it down to a lot of mid-engine stability through these not big chicanes, but they are quite big compared to a lot of others. So I think the mid-engine is just a bit more stable over the course of the lap, whereas the BMW, like you said, had that turbo advantage last week. But that's the good thing about GT3 is each track has its own perks and suits each car individually, and everyone will usually pick the fast car, but there are still people that stick to their brand loyalty. So it's a win-win, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. I think largely we have a good spread of car brands and models presented in this series, which has been good to see. Looking at Marco D'Acunto right now, and you could see him going through that chicane just before. He was able to get the direction change down pat, which is one of the main advantages of a mid-engine layout. You have the engine, the heaviest component of the car, in the center. Obviously, it means better weight distribution and a bit more stability, like you said, Brad, and better direction change too. Let's see how he goes through the chicane then, hopping over the curbs, just avoiding the wall of champions there. So can D'Acunto improve here on his current P3 in qualifying? Oh, looks like he might not have been able to. He might have actually gotten an off track on that lap because I'm not seeing any lap time represented for him there.
Yeah, it's so easy to do. There's the grass on the inside of the chicane that he's going through now, and on exit you can even bump the wall on the exit, gives you a 0x, that's lap done, and then there's the walls through turns 5, and then the big chicane just before the hairpin is another place where a lot of people get off tracks. And then of course there's the wall of champions to greet you at the end of the lap. So there's so many opportunities to make or break a lap around here, and more often than not, it ends up being the break more than the make. But sometimes you do just get it right.
Indeed. Well, the session is over. Philip Broxes is not going to make his way onto a lap time here, but we did see Dominic Push going to P4 right at the end of the session, which is great for him. We'll go through the starting grid then. Rocco Barone coming out on top there, 1 minute 34 flat pretty much, alongside Philip Meyer, who's stepped out of his McLaren for this round. He is in the Lamborghini here at Montreal. There is D'Acunto and Push on row 2 with Victor Gremain and Alberto Gravilli rounding out the top 6. Then we got Robert Corey and Ryan Hildebrandt on 7th and 8th position, with Tiago Castro and Oliver Brandt rounding out the top 10, and 11th and 12th Ville Ivanainen and Patrick van der Bijl.
Nicholas Blondin starts at 13th, with Sugarchin Svedal next to him in 14th. Robert Visky and Philip Nessler share the 8th row. Tomás Gambino and Valio Carbone rounding out row 9. Stephen Brumfield and Ajay Costa rounding out the top 20. Kevin Meyer and Giuseppe Guenna back again, rounding out 21 and 22, with Pierre Armando Venda and Philip Roxkes rounding out the top 24.
And the final driver to set a lap time, Elroy Van Milligan in the BMW. Then the field's rounded out by Lubomir Shivitz, and then Matt Lovridge, James Smith, Sergio Passian, and Yves Collan. And, well, it goes to show how many James Smiths there are on the iRacing service. He is number 56 of an absolute multitude, an ocean of James Smiths. Let's see how number 56 does here today. Beautiful view there of the Lapangla hairpin, which is probably going to be the prime overtaking opportunity on this circuit as the drivers line up here on the backstretch on the run up to the final chicane. This is another one of those tracks where we go for a short, almost half or third formation lap. just to save the drivers some time, make sure that they get to racing as quick as possible. The safety car will pull away momentarily, and we'll be able to get a start here pretty soon. There they go, and seeing that Meyer pulling ahead of the rest of the field there a little bit, obviously keeping up with the pace car as everyone lines up next to him. But Rocco Barone is going to lead the field away here as they come into the chicane. Pace car is going to pull away and into the pit lane. And when we talk about strategy, Brad, we'll have to talk about the pit lane too, because it is going to be very challenging there on the entry if you're in a pack. Either way, side by side through the final chicane, we're going to get a green flag here pretty soon. Rocco Barone will lead them away. He goes, and Philip Meyer cannot respond. He has got the rest of the field all behind him here as we get the start here at Montreal into turn 1, seeing Marco D'Acunto trying to get rounded around the outside by Dominic Push as the inside for turn 2, as the rear of the field making their way into turn 1. We've already got a car off there. That's one of the Porsches. That's Pierre Armando Bender that has gone off at the first turn, but it seems like everyone else has sorted themselves out reasonably as they make their way around the meat of the lap. Got a couple of drivers trying to make it side by side through these chicanes, but for the most part, it looks like everyone's kept it clean, Brad.
Yeah, there were 3 separate incidents at turn 1. Oh,
No!
More carnage.
Oh dear, that's very bad there at the chicane. That's 4 cars involved, and oh my goodness, that was not the best of re-entries there. Sugar-Chan, Vettel trying to get themselves going. They ended up getting hit off by another one of the Porsches. That was Tomasz Gambino. So, unfortunate runnings here in the opening laps of Montreal. We've already got a couple of potential retirements there. We've got Gambino and Valerio Carbone in the pits with heavy damage, but at the hairpin, the action is on in the back half of the field, seeing Adje Costa make his way past Yves Collin. Meanwhile, up at the front, we're having a couple of technical issues, which we do apologise for, but we will say that Rocco Barone has not been able to skip away from Philip Meyer. They are currently separated by 0.4 of a second as they start the second lap here at Montreal. And it looks like the top 4 pretty fully spaced out. And my goodness, this rear of field battle coming into the first turns. It's insanely competitive back here, but Ryan Hildebrandt has gone around in the Lamborghini at turn 2. So he's managed to get going though. We'll get a virtual racing school replay of how that went down momentarily, and it looks like it was contact with another car, the Porsche of Alberto Gravilli. And Brad, it looks to me like Gravilli, he tried to get it up the inside after Hildebrandt made the move, but ended up turning him around. The gap just closed and there was nothing that he could do. We apologise, we're not able to get a replay of that. Meanwhile, let's think about the strategy here, Brad, as we look at Hildebrandt and Bender, the recovering Hildebrandt. Once again, it's going to be a pit stop here in this race. The drivers won't be able to make it home on one set of fuel in these 40 minutes, but that pit entry is going to be very difficult.
Yeah, we touched on it very briefly in the Aussie Car Vs on Wednesday night, where that pit entry at Zolder is on the Grand Prix track is on the racing line. This track is exactly the same, where you pretty much are braking for the last chicane in pit entry almost. So if you're going for pit entry behind someone, you almost have to send it up the inside before turning right for the chicane and then come across before the pit entry mark. Not to get a penalty, of course, but it's very, very challenging. And obviously, if you're at the back of the track, that's not a problem. But if you're in the middle of the pack or at the front of the pack, at the back or in the middle rather than at the front, it is very scary trying to send it in there without losing any time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite the challenge here at Montreal. We do check out the number 4 of Dacunto as he pursues the top 3 here. He's got Dominic Push up ahead of him. Those positions getting swapped on the first lap off the start. Dacunto is going to have to start thinking about strategy here, I think, because it seems like he's not having a great time catching up to Push, and Barone and Meyer are just sprinting away from everyone else at the moment. A bit further back, it looks like that was a move. Thiago Castro making his way past Philip Nessler, and that was for position 10 there. But the BMW is in the draft. Looks like that turbo pressure's continuing to be an advantage in the Bavarian machine, but Nessler is going to back out of that one. This chicane has quite an open entry, Brad, which means, you know, you can move it one up the inside if you're brave enough, but I think in this GT machinery, it's often best to just back out of it.
Yeah, I don't have, as Daniel Ricciardo put it when he was talking about, I don't have the eye into that chicane, because you have to be absolutely 100% committed to that move, otherwise you end up in the fence, or you put someone else in the fence and you look like even more of a out of control, reckless driver. So it is, like you said, it is possible, but it does take a lot of guts and a lot of like foreshadowing that you're going to go for that move, otherwise it really doesn't work.
Yeah, you pretty much have to be right alongside the driver you're trying to pass if you want to make a move in the braking zone there. We check back in the field, though, because, my goodness, Nessler, he's got a couple of Lamborghinis chasing him down here. Robert Visky and Lubomir Ševic right here. And Ševic, oh, here we go, going for a move into the hairpin, outbrakes his fellow Italian machine and gets the move done very nicely. But the question is, will Visky be able to come back at him in the draft? Looks like Ševic is, you know, he's keeping some good momentum there. He's actually pulling away from Visky, so I think that's that move done. But for the lead, Brad, it looks like we're about to get a battle on our hands, because have a look at Philip Meyer.
Yeah, he's absolutely let me start that sentence again. Absolutely tailing Barone in his Porsche, and that Lamborghini, I mean, just looks fantastic. It works with the body so well. But being so low, they do sit at a very similar height, but the car looks so much lower, looks quicker, and being in behind, getting that draft down the back straight and onto the main straight has definitely helped, and a mistake from Barone in the chicane probably won't help his cause, but they are running very similar lap times. But Meyer does have the fastest lap of the race, I believe, on the, not last lap, the one before that. So he is putting the pressure on Barone, and I don't know if he'll be there for too much longer.
Well, we check out a bit of an incident happening back in the field. Thiago Castro and the Lamborghini chasing down that blue Porsche of Patrick van der Bijl. Van der Bijl made a mistake down at the chicane, ran wide, and so he's lost a couple of positions out of that and brought those Lamborghinis right to the fore here. And I think I should give a bit of a shout out to Lubomir Ševic here as he follows Castro down the back stretch here. Ševic currently in 11th place. He's made up 15 positions from where he started. He's made some big moves, and it looks like he's about to make another one here alongside Castro into the braking zone. Gets the move done at the chicane. That's what we were talking about before. You've got to be decisive. You've got to make sure that your rival knows exactly what you're doing, and you can get by into that chicane. So now Lubomir Ševic up into the top 10. He could be on for a great result here.
Yeah, up 16 laps already, and we're not even 10 minutes into this race, so that's absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, there was a bit of contact earlier, gave him 4 or 5 spots on that opening lap and a half, 2 laps, but even then, like, he could have easily been involved, and he wasn't, and he's already knocking on the door of the top 9, and 8th place isn't too far up the road either, and they're in a vicious battle as well. Ivianen and Blondin, so if he does get past Van der Bijl in time, he could easily catch 8th and 9th in front of them as well.
He's got a few more corners to try and do that as we check out Robert Visky behind Philip Nestler. He's actually ran a time 5/10 faster than Nestler on the last lap, so potential moves to be made there, as that is the fierce battle you were talking about, Brad, Iväinen and Blondin. And it looks to me like Iväinen moving ahead there into the hairpin, so we'll see if that's lost them a bit of time to the battle behind. Lining up another move, meanwhile, is Lubomir Ševic. He will get past the Porsche of Patrick van der Bijl into the chicane. Van der Bijl just lifting off and getting on the brakes a little bit earlier to let Ševic go. He knows that that guy is a man on a mission.
Yeah, absolutely. And as much as you don't want to be the guy to send the move into the chicane and take someone out, you don't want to be the guy that was too stubborn to know when they've lost the position and cause the wreck as well. So Patrick van der Bijl was very in self-preservation mode there, and backing out was definitely the smart option, because Ševic was well in front halfway through that braking zone, and pulling out of that was only the smart decision to make.
Yeah, indeed it was, but oh dear, it looks like that's a slowdown for the BMW of Philip Nestler. That's a very inconvenient place to get one. Oh no, that's a spinner. Who is that? That's Visky. Oh dear. That's suboptimal there for the number 18. Looks to me like just a good old spin at the chicane. We'll check it out on the Virtual Racing School replay, which we should have for you now. Yes, indeed we do. Excellent stuff. So Visky behind Nestler coming through the chicane. Nestler's going to get that slowdown there, and Visky had to take a bit of avoiding action there when the BMW lifted off down into the chicane. What happened to him here? It looks like, that's a bit of an odd spin there. Oh, thankfully he got out of the way in time. That is excellent avoidance there from Visky. Big props for that, but he certainly won't be happy about that spin. Probably the rears just lost touch with the tarmac a little bit.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. We were talking about how good and how well balanced these mid-engine cars are around a track like this, but they are also very, very sensitive to trail braking, and pits now become a hive of activity. But yeah, if you take one of these corners a little bit too fast, the mid-engine cars do struggle with trying to slow the car down while turning, and that was a perfect example of that.
Yeah, for sure. It's looking like there's a bit of controversy between Yves Collin and Robert Visky. Collin was spun around in the final chicane. I'm wondering if there was contact between the two of them. We did see Visky trying his best to hold on to a position as the pack went up on him. But we check back in with the top four. Nestler got into the pits on that lap, by the way. So he is, I presume, the first of our cars coming for a scheduled stop, but he's been in that box for quite some time. I'm starting to wonder if... no, he's out of the box now. 51.6 second stop for Philip Nestler. So that seems a bit long to me, Brad.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at pit stop time so far, but most weeks we've been seeing, 40, 45 second stops or quicker, except obviously for Spa for the 24-hour week. But yeah, I feel like 50 seconds is a bit too long. I did want to touch on something. Robert Visky has gone from bad to worse. After he had that spinning, obviously dropped down to the battle for 15th, and was punted by Giuseppe Guenna into turn 1 and took heavy damage and is missing his rear wing. So
he's going to get that repaired right away, isn't he?
Yes.
Sorry for talking over you there, Brad. It's been a very long day for me. I've been up for nearly 18 hours now. The joys of doing commentary tryouts, I won't say what for, and then going to university graduation, as there is a battle forming here for 16th and 17th. Costa trying to fend off the advances of the 56th James Smith there. And Ajay Costa holding on very nicely to that position as things stand. But looks like he's got a pursuing pack here behind him. There's a few different subgroups of cars here, but they're all trying their best to move themselves up a little further. The two Lamborghinis behind of Smith and Broskis, they get a good exit, so that's not going to give much of a chance to Kevin Meyer in the BMW, but Sergio Passian, who we focus on now, could potentially get a draft here, at least draw up to the back of Kevin Meyer coming into the chicane. Looks like we've got Tiago Castro in the lane as well, so he was running all right. Let's see if he can pull a surprise here in the box.
Yeah, Kevin Meyer is also in from, timing says 19th position, so we'll see how his pit stop was. Robert Visky is still in the pits, which is no surprise. I think that's his race done, because that contact he had at the end of lap 7 was very, very heavy, so not massively surprised that he's now out of this race. But Castro is out on track again, and yeah, 39 seconds is much quicker than 51 seconds that we saw just before, so I think that's about ballpark of what we'll see for the rest of the race.
Yeah, indeed. 10.8 seconds stopped in the box. So, yeah, that's pretty much business as usual for this series from what we've seen so far. Meanwhile, Venda chasing down Giuseppe Jenna in the Lamborghini for position lucky 13. Loving all of the battles that are forming here around the track, and it's a nice, consistent burn in terms of the intensity of this race at the moment. We check in with our top 4. Once again, Philip Meyer chasing down Rocco Barone. And the couple of times that we focused on these guys in the last few minutes, I've noticed Dominic Push is really starting to challenge here for second place. Philip Meyer and Rocco Barone, they ran 1 minute 35 ones on the last lap. Push, on the other hand, at 1 minute 34.9, and he was faster than D'Acunto behind as well. So that Porsche is looking very pacey here as we get to the mid-phase of the race. The question is, which of these guys is going to decide to pit first? Because that could make all the difference.
Yeah, it really does. And previously we've spoken about, if you're in a pack and you can't pass, try and come into the pits, get a little bit of an undercut with some clean air more than anything. But that's a lot harder here. Like we said, pit entry is the racing line, so you can't really gain, well, you lose the gain that you get from being in clean air at pit entry, because if you pit from, like if Philip Meyer pits from second, he's going to have to slow down for Rocco Barone in front of him. But then when Barone comes in, he's not going to have to slow down, and that just absolutely ruins Philip's chance of a good result of winning. So he just has to kind of hope that he can go into the pit lane quicker than Barone can, or stay out and try and just lap faster. But if Barone comes in at the end of the pit cycle, then that chance is gone as well. So a very different dynamic of pits this week compared to previous weeks.
Yeah, indeed it is. James Smith, meanwhile, in the Lamborghini, he's chasing down the Porsche of Pier Armando Venda, who we saw spun earlier and was locked in that battle with Giuseppe Jenna. It looks like Jenna has managed to... Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, Smith going right into the back of Venda, and Smith was going for the pit lane there. He's gone straight in, and I think Venda's going to do the same. And, oh, my goodness, that was almost a big crash. Stephen Brumfield in the Audi R8 just avoiding Jenna as he reversed out. We'll get another look at that, and this is exactly what we were talking about, Brad. If you want to go for pit lane and you're behind another car, you better hope that they're going in too, otherwise you're going to go straight into the back of them.
I'm not sure if that was going for pit entry, because he does brake later than the two cars in front of him, but I don't know if it was going for pit entry and just having a complete brain fade, or if he just missed his braking marker, because I think if he was going for pit entry he would have been even faster, because he does brake but just a bit later. So I'm not sure if that was pit entry or just a missed braking marker.
Yeah, I'm unsure exactly. Well, I mean, it's obvious that the Porsche got hit, but the Lamborghini had no one behind him. So, I think that might be something that we have to leave for another day. We're not able to tell what the drivers are going through in their sim rigs, in their home offices or man caves or what have you. So I think it's probably best to let that sleeping dog lie as we check out the top four. Once again, Rocco Barone holding on to the lead, and the thing is, if you want any chance of trying to get by someone, you do want to pit on a different lap to them. That way you can try and engineer an undercut or an overcut. But I'm thinking that, if Rocco Barone goes into the pits, I'm not too sure if Philip Meyer would follow him in. Would all of the top four conceivably pit at the same time?
I would say no. I think I'd want to use the clean air while I can, try and lap quicker, because Meyer is matching Barone, so he might be quicker in clean air, but he hasn't been able to prove that yet, obviously. So we're looking at, 20 to 30 seconds for pit stops.
Oh, sorry, a little bit of side-by-side contact between Brumfield and Jenner there. Jenner just got hit wide, and he'd just come out of the pits repairing that damage. So, go on, Brad. I think that's enough excitement for the next few moments.
Yeah, but yeah, that's why this is so different to a lot of the other tracks that we've been to, because I don't know, I personally wouldn't follow the leader in if I knew I had a pace advantage, but just couldn't get in front. I think I'd want to stay out, but that all just comes down to when Barone pits, because if he stays out, then, I mean, he's played it perfectly. This is technically a street circuit, or a semi-street circuit, I guess, so it is quite difficult to pass even with a lot of the heavy braking zone and 2x2, as we see 2x2 into the chicane at the end of the lap, or a pit entry. Makes it even easier.
I think that that might be slightly disappointing there for the Porsche of Eva Collan. He was going for a move into the hairpin, but the BMW was going straight into the pits. So Elroy Van Milligan, of course, carrying a lot of damage, so he was slow in a straight line. I understand why Collan went for the move that he did, but he might be a bit disappointed that he might have just thrown away some time there.
Yeah. That's the other side of it. If you're trying to make a move like that and they pit, then you have wasted that time. So Sergio Pajan comes out of the pits in 21st. So his pit is done. He's now in front of Vender, who has also pitted, although quite a few laps, 3 laps ago. So this is now the battle on track, whereas before they were quite spread out. Sergio is up 8, whereas Vender is exactly where he started, so not all bad for Pierre Armando Vender, but obviously not quite as good as Sergio was. So we'll see how this one plays out at the rest of the race, because I haven't quite had a gauge on how their pace is outside of pit cycles yet.
Yeah, and we got to remember that Pierre Armando Vender had that off at the first couple of turns earlier on, so he's already been compromised this race. He's just in recovery mode at the moment. The two Porsches, meanwhile, strutting their stuff through the middle sector of this brilliant racetrack. Gravelli and Lovridge line astern for 10th and 11th at the moment. These guys still have to make their pit stops. Half the field have come into the pits as it stands, and we have had a few retirements out of that. Tiago Castro, Robert Visky, Robert Corey, and Valerio Carbone have all, they're all still in the pits, and if they make it back out, that'd be great, but I don't see much chance of that happening. Ajay Costa, meanwhile, he's just taken his pit stop, and 9.3 seconds in the box. That is the quickest stop that we've seen so far in this race, which raises the possibility that he might have underfueled the car, as that looks like a bit of a mistake there in the chicane. You know, coming out of pits, obviously GT3 uses tyre warmers, Brad, and the tyres do keep a lot of their heat when you come into the pits, but you've still got to deal with them having cooled down a bit when you come out for your outlap.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's not quite as bad as chucking fresh rubber on a Audi TCR car. You come out of the pits and you just sit there wheel spinning the front tires and you can't turn. But yeah, there is a significant difference, especially because you've gone from warm, nice grippy tires on low fuel to slightly warm, not quite as grippy tires on, you know, a third of a tank, because you put about 20-25 litres into the tank depending on the track to get to the end of the race. So it does really upset the balance of the car. But yeah, I was about to say this battle for first is absolutely kicking off. A little bit of a bump from Philip Meyer through the hairpin. Last lap, I thought Meyer might have gone for a little bit of a cheeky send into turn one, but he did play it safe. And I'm wondering if he's starting to get a little bit impatient, because he is quicker than Barone by about a third of a second a lap when he gets that clean air in front of him. So I don't know if he'll try and go for the pits. But like we've said time and time again, it's just, is it really worth the risk of trying to send it up the inside for pit entry going into that last corner? You have to pretty much be pushing them down the straight to go to the inside and make pit entry without making contact. So, oh, it's hard. I don't know which way to call it yet. I think we're gonna have to wait until, you know, 30 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, it's looking like this is going to be a very competitive race here, especially up at the front. But we check out the Audi and the Lamborghini, two brilliant GT car brands, Brumfield and Jenna. Once again, these two came together in the first sector once Jenna came out of the pits. So no love lost between these two. We'll see how this battle turns out. Seems like Jenna might have a little bit of a pace advantage over Brumfield here, as it looks like that's the one of the first of our second half of the field into the pits. Van der Bijl in the box now. Lubomir Shavits, meanwhile, has also made a stop, and we were talking about how many positions he'd made up over the course of the race. 9.8 seconds in the box for him, and it's 11 seconds for Patrick Van der Bijl. And Shavits currently in 11th, as it looks like Brumfield and Jenna have come together once again, and it looks like these two, they are, I think there's going to be a lot of rage over the radio, potentially. Brumfield was minding his own business coming into turn one, and Jenna decided to go for the move. Here is the replay thanks to Virtual Racing School. Jenna getting a good run here out of the final chicane, and he thought he might have a bit of a chance here at the first turn, but as you're about to see, Stephen Brumfield was turning in already when he made the move, and looks like that's a straight up botched dive bomb there from the number 22. I don't think that Brumfield's going to be all too happy with that.
Yeah, I would not be either. I've had my radio switched on all race, and surprisingly, Brumfield didn't say anything, but yeah, I would be absolutely fuming if I was him, because that's the second time that Jenna has taken someone out at turn one, and for him to come from as far back as he did was less than, I don't know, yeah, not quite happy with that one if I was in the car.
Less than
that's for
ideal,
sure.
I suppose
Yes.
you could say. And these guys, meanwhile, they've just come out of the pits. Oliver Brandt currently pursuing Villiers Verneinen and Victor Gremain, as Alberto Gravilli also taking his pit stop, and Gravilli is going to rejoin there in 11th place, getting let by another one of the Porsches running down in the field. So now is the question, when are our top four going to come in, because it's almost time for the pit window to end, and it looks to me like right on cue, there they all are. Rocco Barone went in, and interestingly, Philip Meyer has stayed out. I'm thinking that I'm thinking that at least one of these guys has lost some time on the pit entry phase, thanks to that, as they all come into the lane. And as these stops are completed, I'm going to go back and check the replay to see if... well, it looks to me like Meyer was doing okay. He actually... if anything, Meyer actually compromised Push and Dakunto there. Lost them maybe half a second or something like that. So that brings another wrinkle into the battle for the top 4. Certainly Philip Meyer could have a chance here at taking the lead because he stayed out.
Yeah, he does have one lapped car in front of him of Patrick Vender, but I think he'll get out of the way quite quickly. But I was thinking maybe he would do that overcut because Shivets, who pitted earlier, was gaining on Oliver Brandt before their pit stop. He was 5 seconds behind about 3 laps before their stop, and now he's right behind them because he had that clean air and pulled the undercut. Now I think Philip Meyer is going to do the opposite and stay out, and as I say that, he comes into the pits, but hopefully that lap was good enough by his standards to perform the overlap, because he was right on the back of Rocco Barone at the pit stops, who he heads down the straight now towards the final corner. So this is going to be make or break for Meyer. If he gets out side by side, I think he might have it purely on speed, but if he comes out behind, he's going to be probably kicking himself a little bit.
Well, we'll see. There is Barone on the left-hand side of the screen, and pit exit here at Montreal. You cut the first turn. Does Meyer come out in front? He does indeed. My goodness. That's an absolute masterstroke there by Philip Meyer. And I think absolutely the rest of the former top 4 there are going to be a little miffed at Meyer not going into the pits with them, compromised them massively, and they've lost a ton of time now to Meyer and Barone, which are your effective top 2 here, and the field has been cleansed. Marco Dakunto is a fair way behind now. He is 3 seconds behind the leader, whereas he was right with them before, side by side between 2 Lamborghinis there. Looked like a lapped car letting them go. So now, as we've entered the final 9 minutes of this race, we've got some battles to actually work out on track here. Of course, we have the battle between Meyer and Barone for the lead, but there's also this battle here for 6th, 7th, and 8th. Romain, Brandt, and Chevitz. And Lubomir is up 18 positions now. I think if there was a hard charger award being given in this series, he would absolutely take it. No one else would even get a look in.
Yeah, as well as Meyer has driven, that 26-8 you can't beat that. Like, driver of the day right there. Obviously, he still has 7 minutes and 50 seconds, plus a lap if needed to finish the race. But that is by no means easy to do, especially a track like this. One thing I did want to touch on very quickly is the pit stop difference between Meyer and Barone. Meyer was actually 1/10 of a second slower, so that gap that he's got, that 1 second, 1.5 second turnaround, was purely on his in-lap pace, and I think that just adds to how well he has been driving today, because that was an absolutely ripper in-lap by Philip Meyer, and it proves on track right now.
Indeed it does. It seems when Meyer has that clear air, he is almost unbeatable. We did see Oliver Brandt there have to let Lubomir Chevitz by into the first turn. He might have gotten a slowdown out of the final chicane there. Always got to be careful of that here at Montreal in iRacing. But we check back in with our top 2, Meyer and Barone, and we'll get a proper look here at basically the lap time difference between them now that they've both completed their stops. We can see who has the advantage coming into the final 5 minutes of this race. Meyer's pit stop, by the way, was over a full second quicker than Barone's, so that's another reason that he's been able to get that lead. But again, that raises the question of if he's underfueled the car and he might have to start saving a bit. let's see then as they come up to a bit more lapped traffic. That is Stephen Brumfield in the Audi. Obviously with that rear wing looking a bit substandard now, but Meyer setting a woman at 35.077, but it's a woman at 34.733 from Rocco Barone, a 3/10 difference there. So this lead battle is still on.
Yeah, it really is, and I'm wondering if Meyer was able to fuel save behind Barone at the start of the race with, you know, lifting into that final chicane, lifting into the hairpin. I mean, lifting through probably all of the chicanes, because his lap time was exactly the same, near enough. But with the draft, it means you can afford that big lift and coast, and that would have saved him that. I think it's about 3 liters a second fuel refill rate in these cars, so that would have saved him 3 liters, which is the better part of a lap of fuel, which might have been why he went around that extra time. Or maybe the other guys just decided to pit that 1 lap earlier just in case. But either way, it has put him where he needs to be. And of course now Barone gets the draft down the main straight and the technically back straight coming out of the hairpin. It's very, very deep there. But Ivers Colin? How do you pronounce his first name again? I forgot.
Eve, I think.
Eve, yeah, that's right. I always struggle with why Val sounds for some reason.
Yeah. Well, it's a different sound in most languages, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, so being in the draft now is obviously letting Barone keep the pace and catch up, but the fuel save element that Meyer would have had is now no longer part of the equation.
Indeed it isn't, so I think that's going to be a full-on on-track battle to the end. Here is Meyer, Hildebrandt, and Vettel here. Oh dear. Kevin a little bit wide on the exit of the hairpin, and we saw James Smith there. He's gaining a little bit on these guys as well, a 10th faster on the last lap than Meyer and Hildebrandt. It looks like quite the battle forming here. The Lamborghini and the BMW are carrying damage, but Sugar Chan there carrying a little bit less damage, and that is a definite slowdown for, it looks like, both Kevin Meyer and Ryan Hildebrandt. So that's the easiest positions, 2 positions that Vettel is ever going to get, and it's certainly going to bring Mr. Smith into the fold as well. He is now between those 2.
Yeah, you think, oh, I'm going to be stuck here for a couple of laps. Let's try and plan the move 2-3 laps ahead, and then that happens. You take that on a silver plate any day, I think, especially with, 3 minutes and 10 seconds left to go. But thankfully, it was on the main straight that's nice and wide, so serving 2 slowdowns and making the pass was easy enough, as we see lap traffic as well come through. But that was Elroy Van Milligan in his BMW being lapped there by our leaders. And I think the top 4, well, third and fourth, have calmed down, but the lead battle is still absolutely raging on.
Yeah, indeed it is. That lap traffic almost compromising Philip Meyer there. See how they go into the chicane. Don't take too much of that curb on the inside, otherwise you'll make the car bounce coming back onto the curb from the inside of the corner. It seems that Meyer's gotten that sorted out. As you did mention, Brad DeCunto and Push are not pressuring each other anymore. Ville Ivanainen, is up into 5th place now, gaining 6 positions off the start. Got to give a shout out as well to another hard charger in this field, Matt Lovridge, as we check out Hildebrandt and Smith. Looks like Smith is starting to really gain on him here, but Matt Lovridge here started 27th up to 11th, 16 positions gained. We've had quite a few big movers in this field. James Smith, who we were focusing on before, up 13 places, and Yves Collin up 12 positions. He started pretty much dead last, did the number 28. So all round, some very good drives from many drivers in this field today, not least from our top 2 here, as we've entered the final 1.5 minutes of this race, and depending on when they cross the line, this may or may not be the final lap, the end of the Virtual Racing School GT season, at least in the sense of the split that we broadcast here on SimSpeed TV. Who is going to take the final broadcast victory of 2021 Season 3? Let's take a look. Meyer keeping it nice and stable on the exit, not too much oversteer there from the Lamborghini. These cars do have traction control, but you don't want to lean on it too much because it might end up costing you time rather than gaining it. Just taking a little bit out of the tarmac on the outside of the chicane, widening up the run into the corner. Beautiful to see these drivers working their way around this track at such a high level. It's always a pleasure to watch fast drivers take the maximum out of their cars and the circuit. Barone taking the maximum out of his brakes in his dogged pursuit here to try and get this lead back. Remember, Barone qualified on pole position, so it's going to be maybe one last desperate dive at the chicane here, but I think he might be a bit too far back. And as we have now 5 seconds to go here in the race, it looks like this is going to be the final lap. So the timer hits 0 as Philip Meyer exits the final corner, and he is going to come across the line here to win at Montreal. A fantastic drive from Philip Meyer, absolutely nailing the strategy.
Yeah, they both drove very, very well. Very classy race by both of them. But yeah, that strategy was fantastic. And late move. That's
Gremain.
Gremain and
Chavit is getting another position.
I think that's up 19 spots at the end of the race. That's absolutely insane. I'm surprised it wasn't up 20. It was almost up 20, but that late dive was absolutely phenomenal by Gremain.
Fantastic stuff here in the final dying moments of this race. We've still got positions to decide here. Costa and Hildebrandt. RJ Costa has been fighting a very difficult race here, but he's lifted off a little bit early. It looks like he might have actually run out of fuel. Ryan Hildebrandt going by him, and Ajay Costa is choking. He's coughing. My goodness, he hasn't put enough fuel in that car to get to the end, and oh my goodness, that's 2 more positions lost for him. James Smith going into the back, out of the chicane, and it looks like just getting the position over him is going to be Kevin Meyer at the very end. My goodness, some dramatic finishes here at Montreal. We've got the final few drivers on the lead lap now going to come across the line here. Yves Collin is going to best Philip Nestler there in the fight for 18th and 19th position. Ajay Costa is getting a bit of help across the line there. Tomasz Gambino being a bro and pushing him across the line to make sure he gets a classified finish. Good stuff. Technically, you're not allowed to do that, but it's still a good show of sportsmanship, helping out your fellow racer. So, with that, Philip Meyer takes the final broadcast victory of VRS GT here on SimSpeed TV. Rocco Barone really pressured him after the pit stop, comes home 2.5 tenths behind. Marco D'Acunto completes the podium with Dominic Push coming home a further 6 seconds behind. Ville Ivanainen coming home to round out the top 5. There was 4 tenths between Victor Gremain and Lubomir Chavits at the end of it. Chavits just getting the position there of Oliver Brandt. A magnificent fight up the field from Lubomir, with Nicholas Blondin and Alberto Gravilli rounding out the top 10.
Matt Lovridge starts the second group of 10 up 16 spots from his starting grid of 27th. Patrick Vanderbielge in 12th. Ryan Hildebrandt in 13th. Kevin Meyer in 14th in front of James Smith by 1/10 of a second at the end after that bit of contact coming out of the final chicane. Pierre Armo Venda come in 16th. Yves Collin in 18th. AJ Costa in 19th after his help across the line. And Stephen Brumfield, the first car a lap down, in 20th.
Errol Roy Van Milligan also classified a lap down, as is Sergio Passian in 21st and 22nd. Sugarchan Svetel coming home in 23rd, 3 laps down. Then it's Broxus and Jenna with Gambino also all classified at the finish. But then we truly get into retirement territory. The final 4 cars coming to a very early end here. Tiago Castro, Robert Visky, Robert Corey, and Valerio Carbone. rounding out our 30-car field here tonight at Montreal. Well, Brad, that brings to an end proceedings for tonight and proceedings for the season. I've really enjoyed commentating on VRS GT this season and looking forward to seeing where it goes in the future.
Yeah, I'm really hoping we're back for next season because these things are an absolute blast to drive and they're just as much fun to commentate, especially when we have racing like we did today. So I hope we're back next season because it's been an absolute honor commentating this and commentating alongside you. So I hope we come back because the calendar for next season looks absolutely fantastic.
Indeed. The honour is all mine, Brad. It's been good to have you in the box this season here on SimSpeed TV. Well, that's it from us here on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter as well. Make sure you follow us on all of those platforms to get your sim racing broadcasting fix. It's been a pleasure commentating this series, and we hope to see you next season after Week 13 is all wrapped up. I'm Reese Gardner. It's Brad Wingard alongside me in the commentary box, and Scott Fountain on production. From all of us at SimSpeed TV, we say thank you to Virtual Racing School for their support of us here, and to the GT Sprint series as well. It's bye for now, but certainly not forever. We'll see you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going in the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to him.
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive!
This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?